You woke up today. That's the first thing. You opened your eyes. You breathed. Your heart beat without you asking it to. But here's the question nobody asks you, and nobody will. What did you do with that? Look at your life right now. Not the version you post online, not the version you describe to your friends. The real version. The one that exists at 2 a.m. when the room is quiet and you're lying there staring at the ceiling. Is that version proud of you? You had plans. You had dreams. Maybe you still do. But somewhere between intention and action, something died, and you didn't even notice the funeral. You are not failing loudly. That's the problem. You are failing quietly, slowly, comfortably. You are not in pain, and that is exactly why you are not moving. Pain would wake you up. Pain would force you to change. But this slow, numbing comfort, this is the thing that buries people while they're still breathing. You scroll, you watch, you wait, you tell yourself tomorrow. You tell yourself when things are better. You tell yourself, I just need the right moment. But let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting for the right moment? 1 year, 2 year, 5 year? The moment is not coming. It was never coming. Because the moment is not a place you arrive at. It is something you build, one day at a time, one decision at a time. One tiny, invisible improvement at a time. That is what this video is about. Not motivation, not hype, not a 10-step formula that promises to change your life by Friday. This is about something deeper, something quieter, something that works even when you don't feel like it. 1%. Just 1% better every single day. Stay with me. Let me tell you the truth. And I say this not to hurt you, but because someone has to. Your mindset is broken. Not broken beyond repair, but broken in a very specific way. And until you see it clearly, no amount of effort will save you. Here is the lie you have been living. You believe that transformation is a big event. You are waiting for the moment you snap. The rock bottom, the breakthrough, the one conversation, the one video, the one sign from the universe that finally flips the switch inside you. And so every day that big event doesn't come, you do nothing. You wait. And waiting is the most expensive thing a human being can do. Not with money, with life. Here is what psychology actually tells us. Research from University College London found that building a new behavior takes anywhere from 18 to 254 days, depending on the person and the habit. The average? 66 days. Not one magical night, not a single decision. 66 days of small, repeated action. But here is the second lie, and this one is more dangerous. You are comparing yourself to other people. You look at someone who is where you want to be, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel small. You feel like you started too late, like the gap is too wide, like you don't have what they have. And so you don't start at all. But here's what you don't see. You don't see their 3 a.m. mornings. You don't see the 100 times they failed before the one time they didn't. You don't see the invisible 1% improvements they made every single day when no one was watching. You see the result, and you judge yourself against it. That is not competition. That is self-destruction with extra steps. Your real competition, it has never been another person. It is the version of you that wakes up tired and chooses to stay tired. The version that hears a good idea and immediately finds a reason it won't work. The version that quits, not because the path was too hard, but because comfort was too easy. That is your enemy, and it lives inside you. The good news, you already know where to find it. There is a man history remembers as one of the greatest emperors who ever lived. He commanded armies. He governed millions. He held more power than most human beings have ever known. And yet, every single morning, before the world could ask anything of him, he sat alone and wrote to himself. Not to be remembered, not to be read by others, just to remind himself of who he was trying to become. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, Stoic philosopher, and perhaps the most quietly powerful example of the 1% principle the world has ever seen. He did not seek to be great in a single moment. He sought to be slightly better in every moment. And in his private journals, later known as meditations, he wrote something that has echoed across 2,000 years and still lands like a hammer on the chest. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again. Not power over outcomes, not power over other people, not power over circumstances. Power over your mind. That is it. That is the entire game. Everything else, it is noise. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his greatest act of leadership was ruling himself. One thought at a time, one choice at a time, one morning at a time. He was not born disciplined. He trained himself to be. And that training? It was not dramatic. It was not spectacular. It was 1% every day, for an entire life. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like. Not in theory, in your life. Today, here are the 7 principles of the 1% philosophy. Each one is simple, each one is real, and each one, applied today, can begin to change everything. Lesson 1. The compound effect is not optional. This is the first principle, and it is also the most misunderstood. Most people think of improvement as linear. You do more work, you get more result. Simple math. But real growth is not linear, it is exponential. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, puts it this way. If you get 1% better every day for 1 year, you end up 37 times better by the end of the year. Not 365% better 37 times. But if you get 1% worse every day, you end up at nearly 0. The direction you choose today is not just about today. It is about every day that follows. This is the compound effect. And it works whether you want it to or not. It works for growth, and it works for decay. Your practical step for today. Pick one thing you did yesterday, one skill, one habit, one behavior, and find one small way to do it 1% better. Not more, not dramatically, just 1%. Lesson 2. Identity before action. Here is something most self-help content gets wrong. They tell you to change your habits, but they don't tell you to change your identity first. Because here is the truth. You will never consistently act in a way that contradicts how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who is lazy, you will keep choosing laziness. Even when you try hard for a few days, you will return to who you believe you are. But if you begin to see yourself as someone who is becoming disciplined, something shifts. Your actions start to follow your identity. Not because you force them, but because they are becoming consistent with who you are. Psychologists call this self-concept theory. You behave in alignment with your beliefs about yourself. Always. Your practical step for today. Every morning say this to yourself, out loud. I am someone who improves every day. Say it before your feet hit the floor. Not because it is fully true yet, but because repetition makes it true. Lesson 3. The enemy is not failure. It is comfort. People are afraid of failure. They shouldn't be. Failure is loud. Failure teaches. Failure forces you to respond. Comfort is the real killer. Comfort is silent. Comfort asks nothing of you. Comfort lets you stay exactly where you are for years, and you will barely notice the time passing. The ancient Stoics had a practice they called memento mori. Remember that you will die, not as a morbid thought, as a motivating one. You have a finite number of days, a finite number of mornings, a finite number of chances to choose differently. Every comfortable day you choose, that number gets smaller. Your practical step for today. Find one thing you have been avoiding because it is uncomfortable. Do not finish it today. Just start it. 5 minutes. That is all. Comfort loses its power the moment you take action. Lesson 4. Small is not weak. One of the biggest reasons people abandon the 1% philosophy is because it feels too small. I read for 10 minutes today. So what? I did 15 push-ups. Who cares? I drank one more glass of water. That changes nothing. Except it does. Not today. Not tomorrow. But over time, the small actions are the ones that last, because they are sustainable, because they don't require you to be superhuman, because they accumulate quietly below the surface until one day the change is undeniable. A river does not cut through rock because of its force. It cuts through rock because of its consistency. You do not need to be a force of nature every single day. You need to be consistent. Your practical step for today. Write down 3 tiny improvements you can make this week. Not goals, not ambitions. Tiny improvements. A slightly earlier bedtime. 1 less minute of scrolling. 1 page of a book. Small, specific, doable. Lesson 5. Awareness is the first 1%. Here is something nobody tells you at the beginning. Before you can improve, you have to see clearly. Most people are living on autopilot. They react without thinking. They speak without choosing. They spend years on habits they never consciously decided to have. Awareness is not passive. It is a skill. And like all skills, it can be developed. The Stoics called it prosoch. It means self-attention, a continuous observation of your own thoughts, words, and actions, not judgment, just seeing. When you start to see your patterns clearly, you gain power over them. Your practical step for today. At the end of today, before you sleep, take 3 minutes. No phone, no distraction. Just ask yourself 2 questions. What did I do well today? And what would I do differently? That's it. 3 minutes. That is your first 1%. Lesson 6. Pain is the price of progress. Pay it willingly. This one is uncomfortable, and I am going to say it anyway. You cannot grow without resistance. The universe does not allow it. Muscles grow because they are torn. Character grows because it is tested. Wisdom grows because it is earned through difficulty. Every time you feel the friction of a hard choice, that friction is the feeling of you becoming better. It is not a sign to stop. It is a sign you are on the right path. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about accepting difficulty, not as punishment, but as the very mechanism of transformation. He lost children. He fought wars. He governed through plague. And through every trial, he asked himself one question. How do I use this? Not, why is this happening to me? But, how do I use this? Your practical step for today. The next time something frustrates you, the next time something does not go as planned, pause. Ask yourself, how do I use this? Not right away. Give yourself 5 seconds, then answer the question. Lesson 7. Rest is also 1%. One final lesson, and perhaps the most countercultural one. Rest is not the opposite of progress, it is part of it. The culture will tell you to grind endlessly, to sleep less, to sacrifice more, to push until you break. But the highest performers in history understood something different. Recovery is where growth actually happens, not during the effort, after it. Your brain consolidates learning during sleep. Your body repairs during rest. Your emotions stabilize during stillness. A machine that never powers down does not run longer. It breaks down faster. You are not a machine. You are something far more complex and far more valuable. Honor your recovery. Guard your sleep. Protect your stillness. Your practical step for today. Tonight, put your phone down 30 minutes before you sleep. Sit in silence or read something calm. Let your nervous system land. That is your 1% for the night. Are you listening? Not to me, to yourself. Because right now, something is happening inside you, and I want you to feel it. The old you is dead. That version, the one who waited, who scrolled, who told himself someday, who compared, who shrank, who stayed safe. That version doesn't live here anymore. You cannot go back to pretending you don't know what you now know. You know that small actions compound. You know that identity precedes action. You know that comfort is the enemy wearing a friendly face. You know that awareness is where everything begins. Not your family's choice, not your circumstances' choice, not your past's choice. Yours. Because here is something the Stoics understood that the modern world has forgotten. You belong to no one, not to your history, not to your failures, not to the opinion of anyone who has never taken the risks you are about to take. You are not the sum of what happened to you. You are the product of what you chose to do with what happened to you. And today, right now, in this moment, you choose differently. You are not someone who is trying to get better. You are someone who is getting better. Present tense, ongoing, unstoppable. Because 1% doesn't sound like much until you understand what it becomes. 1% today, 1% tomorrow. 1% every day for a year. Do you understand what you are building? You are not building a habit. You are building a person, version by version, layer by layer, day by day. And there will come a day, probably not too far from now, when you will look back at the person you were today and you will barely recognize them. Not because you changed everything at once, but because you changed one thing every day on purpose. You are not waiting for the storm anymore. You are the storm. Move. Before I let you go, I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually think about it. Not scroll past it, not skip to the next video. Actually think. What is the one area of your life right now where you have been giving yourself permission to stay the same? Not because you can't change, but because change requires something you haven't wanted to pay. Discomfort, patience, time, repetition. Find that area. Name it. And then, just for today, give it your 1%. Not your best day ever. Not a transformation, just 1% better than yesterday. That is how it starts. That is always how it starts. Now, if you are someone who is serious about this journey, not just curious but committed, then I want you to subscribe to this channel. Not because numbers matter, but because who you surround yourself with matters. Every video on this channel is a conversation, a reminder, a quiet confrontation with the version of yourself that needs to grow. When you subscribe, you are not following a channel. You are making a decision about who you are going to become. And I want to be part of that becoming. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and show up tomorrow. Because the work doesn't end with one video, it begins here. I will leave you with one final question, not to answer out loud, but to carry with you. If the person you could become in 1 year, the version of you who chose 1% every single day, if that person could see you right now, would they be proud of what you are about to do next? Think about that. See you tomorrow.